Good evening. It's Saturday, and like every Saturday, we are going to be talking about it with a new episode of this vlog, which is going to be the first tutorial episode. A lot of you guys requested this for me, so this is going to be the first tutorial episode, and we are going to be talking about sidechain. So when we're talking about sidechain, we're basically talking of a compressor. There are a lot of different compressors. In Logic, there are a lot of different VST compressors that you can use, but sidechain is a little different. Sidechain is a compressor that we use in an external audio unit. And it looks very complicated said this way, but I will explain what I'm talking about, and you will see that it's much easier than it actually seems. And the objective of sidechain, what we want from our tracks when we are using a sidechain on a synth, for example, is to give movement to our tracks and to get that dynamic flow out of our productions. And how do we do that? I'll show you guys right now. So I'm going to be using Logic Pro, which is my favorite DAW. It's the DAW with which I work in, and this of course works with any other DAW. So if you're using Ableton or FL Studio or Cubase or whatever, this works practically in the same identical way. So this is a part of a drop that I'm working on right now, and it goes like this. So it's a pretty heavy drop, and there are a lot of layers, so the sound is pretty fat, and I like it this way. I'm sure I'm gonna work on it in 100 different ways, but for now this is what we're working with. And I want to show you guys one of these MIDI files in solo. So we're gonna take this layer, which is a synth layer, and it sounds like this. I just got some channel EQing on it, but for the rest is a totally dry layer from Lethal, which is one of my favorite plugins, and it goes like this. So it's actually a pretty fat sound, even just with this only layer. That's why I like Lethal so much. It has really great sounds, but there is something missing, and that's sidechain. And I want to show you guys how you can do that. So the first thing that we do, we go into our effects section, and here we get our compressor. Here we go. This is a Logic compressor. This is the Logic compressor that each and every one of you will find in your Logic Pro without having to download any external audio effect. This is the Logic compressor. So one of my favorite compressors, there are all different types of compressors, and one of my favorite compressors is the Vintage Opto. I really like this compressor. I like how it sounds. You can work with all the other ones. This is just my personal choice, but you can work with whichever compressor you want. So what I said before is that sidechain is a compressor that we use in a different audio input, which means that we are not going to be using that compressor on our MIDI file, on this synth MIDI file. We're going to be using it on something else, which we are going to be calling a ghost kick, and I'll tell you why we are calling it a ghost kick. It's practically a kick, so we get a different audio file. I already have it here ready. It's called sidechain because it's easy to remember. And I just got my kicks, which are these ones. I'm gonna get it a little bigger for you because not that big. Okay. So this is my kick layer, and these are kicks that you can actually hear. They are not ghost kicks, they are real kicks, and this is what I'm talking about. And under these kicks we actually have our ghost kicks, which are these kicks, and if I put them in solo you won't be hearing anything. And that's because when we go on this channel, on our sidechain channel, which is the same exact kick loop that we have on top of here, and we go and check out our channel strip, we can see that there is no output. So you can decide on your output. You can put whatever output. For example, every channel has a stereo output like on default, and you can decide what output to put it. So you go and you put no output, which means that we won't be hearing it because there's no output for that audio file to actually be heard, which means that Logic will still read it. It won't hear it, but it can read it. We're gonna apply our compressor right here in this ghost kick channel. So we give this channel a name, and in this case I called it sidechain because it's easy to remember. and we go back to our main synth which we are working on, which, if I'm not mistaken, is this one right here. Yes, it's exactly this one. And we go back and open our compressor. I'm gonna make this a little larger because we have a lot of different instruments in here, so it's not easy to check it out. But okay, so here we go. We go in our instrument and we go into our compressor. We can open our compressor, which is off right now. We can put it right on, and you will notice right here there is written sidechain, which is what we want to obtain. So before going right into sidechain, we have to check out here sidechain, and it tells us an audio input, which means that this sidechain will not be based on our synth layer, but it will be based on another instrument, which is sidechain in this case. So here we have all our different instruments, and I selected audio 18, which, as you guys can see, is sidechain. So we go into sidechain, and what happens, it's gonna have something to compress, because we're talking about a compressor, and what a compressor does is that when the volume gets too high, it actually gets it, it stops it, and it pulls it right down, so you don't get to that oversaturation, which we actually don't want. So what we do right here, we go and apply this sidechain to our synth layer, which is this layer right here. So without it, this is what we're going to be hearing. And with it. That's exactly the effect we want to obtain out of this track. Of course, I played around with the threshold, ratio, makeup, and you just play around with these knobs and you get the best taste out of your sidechain. So what we do, we play around with it, we play around with our compressor, and that's how we get this effect. And the reason why we put the ghost kick, of course it's a ghost kick because we don't need two kick layers playing, we just need one. The other one is a ghost kick, and we use that ghost kick because the compressor needs something to compress. And if we put it on our synth layer, it's not gonna need much to compress because the synth layer is pretty simple. There's not any big heavy sound sounding heavier than the rest of the track, while a kick layer is a continuous heavy low sound. You hear it, you don't, you hear it, you don't. So thanks to that, our sidechain starts getting down on those frequencies. When the kick hits, the compressor works on the synth based on the kick, and it gives the kick space to kick and the synth to air. That's basically how it works. This was our first tutorial talking about sidechains. There are going to be a lot of different tutorials, and I hope you guys liked it. You can comment below, tell me what kind of tutorial you want me to do, and I'll see you guys next Saturday. Bye bye.